Welcome back to the Aging Well podcast, where we provide families with the tools, resources, and support they need to help loved ones age well. Today, we're talking about something that affects millions of older adults every year: scams and fraud. From fake phone calls and phishing emails to online romance scams and financial fraud, scammers are becoming more sophisticated and more convincing. The good news is that awareness is one of the strongest tools we have to stay protected. Joining us today is Captain Matt Malinowski from the Syracuse Police Department. He will share the most common scams targeting older adults, what warning signs to watch for, and how older adults can avoid being victims. Let's get started. Welcome, Captain Malinowski. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
I know this is a topic you're really passionate about. And unfortunately, we know that scams are really prevalent in today's society, but especially with seniors. Why do you think this group is really signaled out?
Yeah, so in my 15 years of policing, we saw multiple scams happen, and it was really terrible to see people's life work be taken away. These scammers are intentionally targeting our older Americans, mainly because they think that they've taken their whole life to build up a certain amount of wealth and resources, and they know that. And also, just as it relates to older Americans, they're not always up on technology as quickly, and especially that we're all excited about the artificial intelligence and changing our lives. We're seeing the bad element of our society, criminals, unfortunately taking advantage of that, and knowing that not everybody is fully trained on these things yet, and they're using the technology to actually be way more advanced in scamming people out of their hard-earned money.
It's scary. I know. I mean, we see it every day ourselves. You get the text from UPS that is you've got
Correct.
a package or something, but we know that our seniors, while they're trying to adopt technology quicker, they're also falling victim to some of these things. And I know we mentioned in the intro some of the common scams, but maybe you can go into what are some of the top common things you're seeing that are scams that they're falling into?
Yeah, so I want to let the audience listening to this know you're not alone. So I've been growing up with technology my whole life, and I still very often get confused by some of these text messages. But mainly what we're seeing now, it's all over the phone. Calls that come in that are from like those 1-800 numbers you're not recognizing,
Right.
I would just ignore all those. Those text messages with links, ignore them. Don't click any link. That's some of the biggest ones that we're seeing is over the phone. Even if it sounds like a legitimate salesperson and they're calling from a company, you have to be mindful that, you're not really able to ever truly verify who's on the other line. And the one thing we always say to people is get in the information, but you really want to hang up the phone and then you can look up that phone number of the company. But really, you should be never giving out your credit card information or doing any transactions over the phone. It's just too risky in today's times.
I think that's important because I know we see a lot when there's things like Medicare enrollment periods and they start to see ads on social media. If they're on Facebook with their grandkids, they think it's a legitimate ad and they might enter their social security number. I mean, those are really fraudulent. How do you advise around things like that?
Correct. Well, these scammers are professionals and this is all they do. So the first thing to be mindful of is they're typically not even in the United States and they're totally targeting to take advantage of your emotions. So it may start off as a text that, your bank account balance is overdrawn. Click this link. They're pretty sadistic. And we've even seen that they say your grandchild is in jail and you need to wire the police department money. So when you see things that you're getting an emotional response and they want you to act quickly, that's a telltale sign that something's happening. So again, what we recommend in those cases, when you think something may sound a little fishy, take a break. You can always hang up the call. And we would ask you to either speak to a trusted relative or give your local police department a call and we can try to work through that incident together.
I think that's important because you and I talked about this, especially with AI, that they're getting very sophisticated. They can even replicate the voices of a grandchild, and you really think it's them and on the phone, and they play at your emotions. And that's a scary thing that they were trying to make sure they're aware of, that that's probably not real and how to respond to that.
Correct. So it's really called cloning. And what used to be someone trying to mimic your voice and pretending they're you, now they're really creating almost an identical copy of you. So they can take your voice, record it, and then with the use of artificial intelligence, almost make an exact replica of your voice. And now the technology is getting really advanced that they can take a picture or a video of you. The artificial intelligence will kind of learn your mannerisms, the way you speak, the tonality, and it almost makes a direct replica of a video. And I don't want to freak everyone out, but
Right.
it's really just taking that extra layer for trust, especially if people are asking for your money. If you're doing anything with your money and it's over the phone or it's over the internet, you really should probably have another trusted family member doing that with you. Don't take it on your own. And especially a lot of the local credit unions now do a great job in having people on site that will look at your situation and evaluate, is this a scam or isn't it? But I would take it's your life's work. So
Right.
take the time to make sure you're actually not getting scammed. And I go into every scenario thinking I'm getting scammed and then I prove myself otherwise.
Right. I think that's what's most important is kind of taking that pause and not
Yes.
reacting in the emotional moment. I mean, one of the other things we've talked about, and I know we've seen this and heard this from residents, is contractors. You've got somebody maybe who's a widow living at home alone, and they know they need a repair, and they get a call from a contractor or who they think is a reputable contractor. And how do they react to that?
Correct. We see this one all the time. So what will happen is, and it's a gray area because they'll come in and they say they're going to clean your gutters and they may just only wash one little part and then they'll say they'll be back next week or next month. And then that person's never back there again. So what we often tell people with that is use your resources. One great one is the Better Business Bureau. They have the businesses on there. If you are on the internet or you're using social media, go to those Facebook pages, look at the comments. Also, those trusted family members, those friends, go through a referral system you can trust. But if you don't have anyone, then I would call the Better Business Bureau because at least they get rated by other customers. So your chances of getting scammed by that. But these fly by nights, as I call them,
Hmm.
they're going to pull up with a truck that has no advertisements. Their paperwork is shady at best, and they quickly want to take cash from you. Again, now that your money's involved, come up with a slogan like, please wait, pause in your brain, take a
Right.
deep breath, and then you can always call that person back. But they're very forceful, to the point where they're really pushy and trying to get that service done. So,
I think that's important to recognize too, because I know one of the things that you said when we were talking is that once it's your money's involved or you give up money, it's incredibly difficult or almost impossible to get it back.
I love that point. Super important to know. Here's another one we see. Oftentimes, your national grid is going to get shut off. You have to quickly pay your bill. So
Hmm.
then they tell you to go to the local drugstore, grab a gift card, and now you're paying your bills on a gift card. And when you stop and think about that, it doesn't make sense. So again, once you send that gift card code, or if it's cryptocurrency or whatever it is, it's usually getting shipped to a different country. My jurisdiction runs out from the city of Syracuse. The state police can go to the state. So you don't really have the ability to go over in India and now we're going to try to figure out who stole your money. So
Right.
you almost have a 0.01% chance of getting your money back. So again, that's why it's so critical you catch it before you send your money.
I think that's a great point. I know we talked about some red flags. Are there other red flags that you would cite to be on the lookout for in some of these scams?
Well, the biggest one, again, anything digital. So phone, email, text, you got to be super mindful of. I would never, again, personally me, and I would advise people don't purchase anything over the phone. If you get an email, they're getting really sophisticated. I saw one from Chase Bank, looked identical
Hmm.
to my bank account. The only way you can truly tell is if you click for who the sender was and you can see the email, and it's usually something crazy with a bunch of symbols. But even now I'm so paranoid about it, I would just close all the windows out and I would go to that company's website. If you're ever paying for something other than like a common method like credit card, check, fine. But if you're using gift cards to pay for things, if you have a cryptocurrency balance and now you're sending that money along, anything other than like your common methods of payment, going to be a scam because those can't be tracked. So those are the main things that come to mind. And again, if we can just remind people, if you're emotional in this and there's a sense of urgency, then there's a pretty good probability you're probably getting scammed.
And I know you said sometimes they'll demand secrecy or don't tell anybody or you get into trouble. I mean, I think those are important points too,
Correct.
which you don't think about.
Maybe I could share that story of when I was in my office, I was at the police station in full uniform and I would take calls. I knew they were scammers. I was getting them all the time. I used to like to play along with them because I would say, if I'm wasting an hour of their time, they're not scamming somebody else. And the gentleman told me that I had a warrant for my arrest and that the police department was going to call. So then he hung up, and then I got a call from our Syracuse police front desk because he had cloned the number. And a guy with from the front desk said, "You have a warrant. We're going to come arrest you." And I even had to go down to my front desk and check. And I'm like, is somebody calling me? And they weren't, but that's how sophisticated it was. And at the time, as a police sergeant, they're calling my cell phone and they wanted money from me. And had I not been in the uniform and not actually worried, I can see how people would easily feel like they're in trouble. If that ever happens, if your grandson's arrested or they say you have a warrant, just call your local police department and then we'll be able to tell you. But they often will say, do not tell anyone about this. Keep this a secret. That's another great red flag if you hear that. There
Okay.
should be no secrets. If you owe somebody money, the company's not going to tell you to be quiet about it.
I think that's a great point too. And I know we've talked about never enter any of your personal information or identification information in an ad or through an email. Those are tips that we've talked about too.
I just think with the sophistication that we're seeing, it's kind of the Wild West with this artificial intelligence. And again, I can maybe take a hit at my age if I lost a significant amount of my money, but I think somebody who's worked their whole life for it and they get a substantial amount taken, that's the worst case scenario. So as relatives of older Americans, you really have to be vigilant. I often check in with my dad all the time and just see how his accounts are going, things, purchases. But the other ones you see when they're lonely in that community is kind of these romantic relationships. May not be who you think it is on the other end of the phone.
Well, and it's even harder if somebody's got an early stage of dementia or is just thinking that this is somebody that they know or they are quick to respond. I think that's important to think about too. And I like your point about the children of parents checking in and kind of keeping an eye on what mom or dad is doing.
I think they play the most important role is going to be the children of parents because they're the ones that should be checking in. Like if your parents are describing a new friendship or relationship, but they've never met the person, it's purely online. That to me would, raise the hairs on the back of my neck. And I'd start asking questions because, yeah, maybe it is somebody that is, in Europe and they're pen pals. But again, you have a high probability that's a scammer and they know that they're going to take advantage of their loneliness. They know that they're going to work them over. And then once they get the money, they're gone. And we've seen it again, countless times. And which is why I'm really passionate about this. And I'm so glad we're doing this together because if we can prevent at least one person from getting scammed, I feel like, at least I feel accomplished. But it's spreading that word. But it's really the children of these parents. We owe it. They took care of you when you were little. Now you have to really reverse it and take care of them as they're getting older.
That's right. And sometimes our parents don't want to bother us because they think they can still do things at home alone by themselves, whether it's, again, I can work on getting my driveway plowed or getting my gutters cleaned out. But I think we just have to be more alert and aware. And to your point, pause and really assess what's coming in and out.
Yeah, because, again, I'm not trying to make everyone paranoid or freak people out, but it's just you have all day, every day. Like I can tell you today, I got 3 calls from scammers from crazy numbers. So if they're doing it to me and I just now block it and move on, but if I'm getting threatened that I have a warrant and someone's at my front desk to arrest me and I'm getting fake emails, I can assure you that they're doing it definitely to that community because they know the vulnerabilities that exist.
Recap kind of the top tips. If there's 3 things that you want people to take away from today.
Well, the big one that I love is that if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. You did not win the African lottery. So if you're paying something to get something in return, like, if you need to send a $10,000 check to get your $1 million check, it's probably not happening. I'm going to be overly cautious here and say you should never be purchasing anything over the phone. Hang up, go to that company's website yourself if you want to buy something would be my big one. Same thing with anything with email. And then, really the last one to hit home with is the contractor piece. Going back to it sounds too good to be true. If someone's going to do your whole roof for $1,000 and it costs $20,000 to do your roof, you're probably going to get scammed in that scenario. And any of those, though, I would open it up with, I'll make my information available to you. I'll take a phone call time or any time of the day or night to try to prevent a scam. But just ask somebody for help. Don't be embarrassed. But if you ask a friend or the police, we can probably prevent something from happening.
That's great. I know you talk about checking your financial statements regularly is another one, just to kind of keep an eye on it to make sure your information isn't out there or you haven't gotten a fraudulent charge you don't know about. I know you mentioned you can now also register for fraud alerts. How does that work?
Oh, that's usually through your financial institution, but really important that you're getting alerts very quickly. And because it happens so fast, I would not rely upon checking your statement in the mail every 30 days. That's way too late. And information moves so fast now, your account could be drained in 5 minutes. You don't want to wait for the bank to call you or something that happened happened a week later. So, you know, depending on your use of technology, but you can get alerts right to your phone, and you can even put, if there's a withdrawal bigger than $100, to send me a text, and that would be working with your financial institution. Go visit the location yourself. But again, I know the credit unions, because they're local and they do truly care about their customers. I fully do all my banking business with a credit union because I actually can see the owner of the bank right there. And I don't know that you always even need to be a member. The one that I'm at, they take non-members and help them out with these things.
I think that's a great point too. And I know I've set my mom up with this.
Yep.
It's just there's basic settings in your online banking now that you can get a text alert that says, hey, did you just make this purchase?
Yep.
And you can verify it, or if not, then they'll freeze your card just so you have time to look into it, because you're right, it happens so fast.
Yeah, I think like we're all pretty good, hopefully, about getting, say, an annual physical, right, for your health. But I really think you need to make that like an annual physical for your financial health, and a little checklist of things, right? So just making sure, I would do it, every quarter, every 6 months, every year, but checking in with our parents and saying, how are things looking? How is their security up to date? And I think if we just build that as a part of our routine, again, it's just going to make us better experts on not getting scammed.
I love that. An annual checkup on your financial
Yep.
health. That's a great idea.
Yep.
Anything else that you want to add today that we haven't covered?
Again, it's just hypervigilance. We all get caught up in our daily grind, and I know usually we're not thinking about it, but I can assure you that there's people out there, you're just not seeing them, and they're looking for any way to take your hard-earned money. So, you worked hard for it. Your
Yeah.
families have worked hard for it. Don't be the victim of this. And again, please just call your local police department. Just make the call. And if they're not willing to answer, then I'll give you my contact information. You don't have to be in Syracuse. I'll at least help you myself, or connect you with a financial institution that can give you some advice.
Well, thank you.
Of course,
Great
you're welcome.
conversation today.
Yep.
Great advice.
Thank you.
Great to have you.
Yep. Thank you.
Avoiding scams starts with awareness and conversations like this that can help older adults, and really all of us, better protect ourselves and the people we care about. Thank you for joining us today on Aging Well. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with a friend or loved one. Visit our website for updates and upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening, and join us next time on Aging Well.